What's up, boys and girls? Cyclone9 here once again with some Path of Exile 2 content. Today is all about crafting, and specifically, we're going to do body armor first. I'm going to show you how to craft some epic gear, either to upgrade your own gear or to put on the market to sell and make some currency. So let's get right into it. What I've done so far is I have collected a bunch of crafting bases. As I mentioned, we're going to start with body armor, and I think the crafting base I found the most of for today's example is going to be the Keth Raiment. This is a high-level energy shield base. I'm a minion infernalist, a witch minion infernalist, so I'm running energy shield. So the thing you want to do is, if you're running armor, you want to collect some good bases that are the highest in armor. If you're running evasion, same thing for that. Collect crafting bases that are high in evasion. Today we're doing energy shield. So I'm going to pop these right in my inventory. So we're ready to go. Going to grab some exalts because we'll probably need those, I hope, we get to that stage in our crafting journey. And one thing I just wanted to mention really quick, to figure out what the best bases are for you, you can actually use an amazing website, which I will link in the description of the video. It's called Path of Exile 2 DB. So let's head over there. And what I've done to get to this page, what this is showing all the mods or the affixes that can be on body armors, and specifically intelligence-based body armors, aka energy shield bases. To get to this page on Path of Exile DB, you just hover over the Modifiers tab over here, click on Modifiers, and then it's going to bring you to this lovely list of all the different types of gear. So today, as I mentioned, we're looking at body armors. We're looking at specifically intelligence-based body armor, so I clicked on that. And then what it did was it brought me to here, which shows all the different modifiers that can be on body armors. So for those of you that don't know, each piece of gear in Path of Exile can have up to 6 affixes, and they're broken down into prefixes and suffixes. So if you hover over any piece of gear and then you hold the Alt key, you're going to notice a couple different things. On the left-hand side here, it's kind of faint. It took me a while to actually realize it was here. Excuse me. You'll see that these modifiers up here on the top are the prefixes. These modifiers down here on the bottom are the suffixes. You can have 3 of each for any piece of gear. Next component to this, I'm still holding Alt to see this information. On the right-hand side, it shows you the tier of that affix. The higher the tier, the higher the range of rolls you can get to that specific affix. So you can see T7 is a pretty high tier for Spirit. T7 energy shield max energy shield, percent increased energy shield, pretty high. T9 for maximum life. I have a tier 5 cold resistance, I have a tier 5 intelligence, and I have this one which I don't particularly want for this build, so I could chaos it, be a huge gamble, but a tier 11 life regeneration. It's not completely worthless, but I would be looking for some other things ideally. So let's go back to PoE DB for a second here. What ideally do I want? If I could have 3 prefixes and 3 suffixes on my armor, what are the ideal rolls for me to get? So I want the most energy shield you can get, and then essentially I want the highest amount of resistances I can get. In addition, Spirit is a really, really big one for my build, being a minion build, which each minion you have requires a certain amount of Spirit. So I want high energy shield, I want Spirit, and I want resistances. Chaos resistance is the hardest resistance to acquire. So ideally I'd have some chaos resistance and then some additional elemental resistances. So if I can have 3 prefixes, I want some combination of energy shield, flat energy shield, percentage energy shield with a life, or you can get this other prefix, which is flat energy shield and percentage energy shield in one affix. Any of those will work. The other one that I would really like to see is plus to Spirit, flat Spirit increase. So if I get a high tier of any of those on my prefix, we're looking good. For suffixes, the number one thing I'd like to see is chaos resistance, followed by any elemental resistance, And then third off, a really high attribute roll would not be completely bad, because I do need some strength in this build, need a fair amount of intelligence. Don't need a ton of dexterity, but it's popped up that I have needed it here and there for different skill and support gems. All right, so let's get right into the crafting now. So as I mentioned, I picked up a bunch of these high energy shield bases. There's another base that's even better, this one right here, the Expert Hexer's Robe, which has high energy shield, but it doesn't have an implicit. What an implicit is an affix that won't change regardless of crafting. So on Expert Keth, every single Expert Keth raiment has increased mana regeneration rate. So it has a lower base energy shield roll on it than Expert Hexer, but it always is going to have percent increased mana regeneration. So that is something that's useful for my build. It's really useful for builds that want to go mind over matter, where you take damage from your mana before you take damage from your life. So that's just a little bit of additional information. So let's start off with the white bases first. I have a couple white bases, I have a couple magic bases, and we'll take a look at them and see what we can do here. So with the white base, the first thing you're always going to do is you're going to use your Transmute Orb. So Transmute Orb upgrades a white item to a magic item with 1 modifier. So let's go ahead. Let's look at the implicit first. So on this piece of gear, it's the lowest the roll can be. I'm holding Alt to see that information again. So right now it's 40% increased mana regeneration. It can go all the way up to 50%. So this isn't like an incredibly fantastic base. If it was like a 50% increased mana regen, I might just skip doing a transmute and then doing an Orb of Augmentation and just straight go to Alchemy Orb. Because with an Alchemy Orb, it upgrades a normal white base into a rare base, and it'll give it 4 modifiers. So you kind of skip all those preliminary steps, and you can just go straight from white to rare, which is sometimes useful. But we'll just go the beginning route and see what we get. So the first step, Orb of Transmute, pop it on. Life regen, not good for this build. So it's a T8 life regen, which is a pretty high tier for it, but I just don't need life regen. Now, for science sake, we're going to put an augment on there and see what else we get. You'll notice that that was a suffix, so it's more likely I'll roll an prefix with the augmentation orb, but we'll see what we get. So here we go. Pop it on. Boom. I got flat energy shield, but it's only a tier 5 roll. So apparently there's 11 tiers of flat energy shield. If we look back here on our PoE DB, you'll see that up here under flat energy shield, this green icon indicates the number of tiers. But if you actually open it up, it's broken into 2 different ones. It also has armor and evasion down here. So there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 tiers of energy shield. And what did we get? We got tier 5 out of 11. So that's not a super high roll. One other thing I want to mention, looking at the PoE DB, is that it shows the item level that's required for the base to be able to roll this highest tier. So it has to be an eye level 79 or higher to roll the highest tier of flat energy shield. Let's go back to our item and see what level it is. So once again, hover over your item, hold Alt, and you see at the top, it's only item level 76. So it can't even roll the highest tier. So basically, the highest flat energy shield I could get on this item would be a tier 10. It's a tier 5 out of tier 10 with energy, with life regeneration, which is not good for this build, so we do not proceed to the next step. Next base, let's try this again. Look at that, 49% increase. That's 1 away from being the max amount of mana regeneration on the implicit. So this is a better base. It's also a higher item level base, but it's not 79, so it still can't roll that highest tier of flat energy shield. Let's see what we get. We got a tier 5 flat energy shield again. We got a reduced attribute requirements, which is a brick. Not something I want to see at all. We got a prefix and a suffix. On this one, we got a prefix and a suffix. So both these are bricked. We're not going to proceed. Next, we got a 44% implicit. Let's see what we get. Transmute, 96% increased energy shield. That's a tier 7% increased energy shield. Pretty good start. Let's see what else we get on the augment. Cold resistance, and it's a tier 6. So these are 2 affixes I definitely want to see, and they're high enough tier that I want to proceed to the next step. The next step is putting a regal orb on it. So regal orbs convert an item to a rare and give it one additional affix. So let's see what we get. Go over to the regal orb, and we're going to pop it on. We're hoping for more energy shield, spirit, or another resistance. Let's go. Woohoo! We got flat energy shield and a high tier. Tier 7 to flat energy shield. So now we have 2 energy shield rolls and we have a tier 6. So this is definitely a candidate to throw some exalts on it. Once again, we can have 6 affixes, not including the implicit, on any piece of gear. So I could exalt this up to 3 times. And we're going to go one at a time just to see what we get. So we want more energy shield. We want spirit. Ideally, we get spirit and chaos resistance. That would be the best affixes I could add with this next exalted orb for this piece of gear. So I'm going to open up. I'm going to pop in my first exalt. Let's go spirit or chaos. Life regen. Not good. And it's a pretty low roll. So you have a couple different options right here. Another crafting orb that you can be utilizing is the Chaos Orb. What this does, it removes a random modifier and then adds a random modifier. So if I wanted to take a chance right now, I have a 1 in 4 chance of removing life regen and replacing it with something else. So a 25% chance to maybe completely brick the item or make it god tier if I happen to land one of my things. So it's kind of a gamble. For the sake of this, I'm actually going to price it real quick. I'm using a pricing tool. So let's just see where this sits without life regen, see if it's worth anything. We'll lower these rolls a bit just so I can get a broader range of what we're looking at on the market. If you guys want to know about this tool, I'm happy to explain it. Come watch me stream live, ask all the questions. I'll help you acquire it. I'm not exactly sure how accurate it is at this moment, but it gives me some idea of what's going on in the market. It says this might be worth 1 divine. It's got 566 energy shield. Let's put this down to 540 just to see what pops up this time. Yeah, still 1 divine. Very interesting. And what it does, it's showing the energy shield. See here, if you hover over it, it says 472. But it's calculating it as if you were to have used a bunch of armor scraps to upgrade it to 20% quality. So that's where it would sit, would be at that 566 number. Now, what is my current base? It's only 433. So substantially higher. I think this is a candidate to exalt one more time. We're looking for chaos res, spirit, or another elemental resistance or more energy shield. Let's go. We got another elemental resistance. So we have 2 tier 6 elemental resistances. This item is looking pretty damn good. This would definitely sell on the market for a pretty hefty amount. And it's definitely a candidate to go all the way with it and throw on the last exalt orb. We really would love to see spirit here or chaos resistance. Other acceptable things would be lightning resistance or additional energy shield. Let's go, baby, one time. Boom. Oh, it's an energy shield plus max life. Holy cow. So this is a fantastic item. This is just absolutely wonderful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to price this item. This could be an upgrade for me straight out the gate, although mine has a really high life roll and it's also got plus to spirit, but it only has 1 resistance. And then I socketed in cold because that's what I needed at the time, cold resistance. This is probably an upgrade, but what I want to show you is how to go and price it using the trade site. So I'm going to bring up the trade site here. Give me 1 second. All right, here I have the trade site up. And what we're going to do is we're going to search, we're going to come down here to item category. We're going to type in body armor, select that. We're going to select energy shield down here and put in, what was our energy shield on this one? The max is 633. So we'll see, say any items we're looking at have to have a minimum of 600 energy shield. We've got fire and cold resistance higher than 30%. So we're going to go over here, type in fire resistance, 30%. Cold resistance, 30%. What else? I'm going to leave the max life off and the regeneration off. So this is essentially it. The one other thing that might be worth putting is putting in the specific base, Keth. We're not going to do that right out the gate because I want to see what we find just doing this. And it looks like this item that I've crafted here today is at least going to go for 1 divine. All the other items that are on the market right now already have 2 sockets. And they've even put in increased armor, evasion, and energy shield already to bump it up to the level of the item that I have. So I honestly think that the item we crafted right now, using a couple exalts, a regal, an orb of transmutation, and an orb of augmentation, is worth 1 divine. So we just made bank crafting that item. Pretty damn cool. Let's just move on. So that's a great example there of a successful craft that made us a bunch of money. This next one, it's already a magic item. I kind of want to look at it. It's got tier 8 energy shield and tier 5 intelligence. This could be a regal candidate, but it's kind of on the fence. Attributes are not the most important thing that I'm wanting to get. Although for other builds that, like I said, are using the node mind over matter on the passive skill tree, really prioritize mana and mana regeneration, and intelligence does give you additional mana. So for those types of builds, it could be highly valuable. For my specific build, intelligence isn't the largest priority, but we can definitely regal this and see what happens with it. So we're going to pop on the regal orb, and we got another increased energy shield, more energy shield. So that was a fantastic roll for our regal. We're definitely going to exalt this. Again, we're looking for more energy shield. We're looking for spirit. We're looking for resistances. Let's see what we get. Life. Life is not the worst thing to acquire, and that was an energy shield with plus to life roll. So that's actually fantastic. We got 3 prefixes that are all energy shield. The only suffix right now we have is intelligence. So we can roll 2 more suffixes on this. We're looking for chaos resistance, ideally. That's the number 1 we can get to increase the value of this item. Or high tier elemental resistances. Let's see what we get. Hold res, tier 7. So streamer luck, oh my gosh. We're just rolling items, divine items, no problem. Just throw a couple exalts on stuff and you get a couple divines. Cool. We're going to proceed, clearly. We have one more thing we can pop on this. We'd really love to see chaos resistance, but any other elemental resistance is going to be fantastic. Let's go one time. Pass me the sugar. Lightning resistance. Bam. Tier 3. Not the highest tier, but it's not a bad roll. This item will definitely sell. So over here we got 528 energy shield without upgrading the quality. Over here we got 486 energy shield without upgrading the quality. So this item is definitely better. This could probably sell for more than 1 exalt. I mean more than 1 divine, or 1 divine to be safe. This one could possibly sell for 1 divine, but it might be a little bit less than that. Maybe we put it up there for 40x or something like that. Pretty cool. We can go back to the trade side if you guys want to check the new one out. We'll do it real quick as an exercise. So it's the same base. One thing to mention is these are expert hexer robes. So mine, in addition to be it's substantially better than this item right now. The reason is because I haven't put in sockets yet. So mine still has a lot of space to be upgraded. And I have the implicit that gives it mana regeneration. So substantially better. What I want to do is I want to change this. And I'm actually just going to look at the exact base that we're looking at, which is the Expert Keth Raiment. Let's see what pops up with the original search for this. Here we go. So now we're looking at only a couple items on the market that are going to sell for 1 divine. 1 divine, 1 divine. And our item is definitely better than this one, I would say. The first item recrafted easily, because it doesn't have sockets in it yet with that increase. And it's debatable. It's definitely on par with this one. This has a really high life roll, which is kind of nice. But, our item is probably better than both of these. Let's look at our second item. Our second item, instead we got 40 cold res and 20 lightning. 40 cold and 20 lightning. So we type in lightning resistance. We'll put in 20. And you can vary these to go slightly less, just in case you want to see a little bit more of your competition. And the max energy shield after qualitying on our second item we crafted was 583. So we're actually just going to put in 575 to see what pops up. Again, all of these are already just 1 divine minimum, and they already have sockets in them. So crazy. I'm not going to socket mine. That's just mean to do. They're doing this so they appear higher in search results for people looking for high-level energy shield. But honestly, most people are going to want to socket in more resistances and the resistances they need. So this actually devalues the item. It makes it easier to find in trade, and more likely people find it in trade, but it devalues it because you can't replace these with what you're actually wanting currently in the game. I think you should be able to replace the socketed items, just overwrite them, but that's another discussion. So again, this second item that we crafted, easily another divine. So far in our crafting experiment with just a handful of bases right here, we've made 2 divines pretty easily. Very successful. So let's just go finish up the last couple bases we have here. Again, this one we have max life, and it's a tier 8 and stun threshold. So I'm holding Alt. If you hold Alt and hover over this, in case you didn't know, increasing your stun threshold makes it less likely that being hit by an enemy will stun you. So it's not worthless, but it's not the most important thing we want to see on it. I'm actually not going to regal this. I don't think it's worth a regal, because unless it was like tier 10 life, maybe I'd consider it. But I'm just going to leave it alone. You know, I don't need to craft on that. And here's another example. Tier 6 regen, terrible. Augments are basically free, so we'll pop it on just to see what we get as a second one. We got 45 spirit. So spirit has up to 8 tiers. So this is only a tier 4 spirit. Definitely not worth popping a regal on. So I'd say this crafting was a great success. You know, we used, 6 exalts, and we're going to profit 2 divines pretty easily. Absolutely fantastic. So you can do this with any base. One other additional thing I want to show you for the people that want to be super diligent and be good at crafting, there's another section in PoE that shows you all the bases for different items. I'm going to show you how to get to that so you can come and find out what the best bases are for your class. So to get to that, if you're in PoE you come over here to items, go to items, and then today we're going to select body armor as our example. It's going to default to showing you the uniques. If you're build planning, come check out the uniques. See if any of them are, going to be relevant to what you're building. But right now we're just crafting out rare items. So we're going to go over to this tab where it shows just all of the base items that are not unique. Specifically today, we're looking at bases that have energy shield. So if you pop down here to the search, ENERGY, you're going to only see bases that have energy shield on them. You're then going to scroll to the very bottom so you can see the highest level bases. Well, highest level bases are hybrid, evasion, and energy shield, which is not what we're looking for because they're only 84 energy shield. So these are all hybrids. There's 101 energy shield on this, 101. But if you come back up here to pure energy shield bases, look, there's a lot higher starting for energy shield, 153, 153. And of course, expert hexer has the highest, 184. So I can tell that it's basically these 3 bases that are the highest level bases I could use for crafting if I'm trying to craft energy shield based armor. So expert hexers doesn't have an implicit. Expert altar has faster start of energy shield recharge, which is pretty cool. And the example we used today was expert keth, which has increased mana regeneration rate as an implicit. So you can do this with any item. So let's say, for example, we want to go look at, instead of armor, we're going to look at what's the best helmets I can get that are energy shield based. So we go back to there, we go to helmets, we go to this tab to look at the white bases. We type in energy shield, we type in energy, that's enough, and scroll to the very bottom. Again, the highest ones are hybrid, evasion, and energy shield. That's not what we're looking for because we know if it's pure energy shield, it's going to be a higher energy shield roll. So right up here, we got these 2. Expert feathered tiara has 101 energy shield base, and expert chain has 92. So that's kind of acceptable. The number 1 base for energy shield, pure energy shield builds, is right here, expert feathered tiara. So you can use that to figure out, hey, what bases do I want to collect to craft on? Because of course you want to be using your currency on only the best bases. So that's a great example of how to do that. So that was my crafting guide for body armor today, and specifically for energy shield enjoyers, and even more specifically, people that want to run minions or need high spirit rolls to maximize their build. I'd say this is phenomenally successful. I hope that you guys can use this information to craft and upgrade gear for yourself, or craft gear that you can then sell for lots of currency and buy exactly what you need for your specific build. As always, guys, I stream often. I'm streaming on YouTube, I'm streaming on Twitch, and I am at Cyclone9 if you want to come find me. You can always ask me questions while I'm streaming about my build, about mechanics, about crafting, or just come and hang out for the entertainment. I love to have people in chat. It makes the streams more interesting, so I'd love to see you there. if you enjoyed this video, hey, I'm a brand new creator in PoE 2. So like every like and every subscribe is so meaningful for me. Every comment I'm going to read and I'm going to reply to. So like, comment, and subscribe. It means a lot to me, and it means that I can keep creating more of these videos. It's going to indicate to me that you guys are enjoying the content and you want to see more of it. It's free to you, so like, comment, and subscribe. Really do appreciate it. This is Cyclone9 signing off.